you ever discovered a detail at a theme park and thought, there's gotta be a story behind that? Well, you've come to the right place. We're Amanda, Kevin, and Kim, the team behind Where in the Park, and we've spent years exploring theme parks and creating seek and find games that uncover the details that most people miss. And now we're diving into the history, stories, and secrets behind those magical details. So grab your curiosity, and maybe even a churro, and let's explore the parks together, one detail at a time. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Where in the Park podcast. This is Amanda, and today we'll be exploring Enchanted Forest, a theme park in Turner, Oregon, near Salem, which is between Eugene and Portland. This park was created by Roger Tofte, whose imagination quite literally transformed a forested hillside into a storybook experience that families have been enjoying for generations. As partners with Enchanted Forest and as people who really value the artistry and intention behind theme parks, especially independently built ones, we wanted to take some time to honor the life and legacy of Roger Tofte. Roger passed away earlier this year in February, and on May 12, 2026, his celebration of life was held at the Oregon State Fairgrounds. In this episode of our podcast, we'll be exploring a little bit about his early upbringing and inspiration for the park, and then dive into each area of the park and what makes Enchanted Forest so special. To see photos of what we'll be discussing today, including personal photos that we've taken around the park, please visit our podcast blog at whereinthepark.com/podcast. So to really understand Enchanted Forest, we actually need to start with Roger himself. To paraphrase the history page found on Enchanted Forest's website, Roger Tofte was born in Chippewa, Wisconsin in 1930 and moved to Oregon when he was 5, where he would stay through high school. Roger served in the Navy during the Korean War and afterward married Mavis in 1954. After apprenticing at a jewelry store in Washington, he and Mavis moved back to Oregon, where he and Mavis first met, and Roger found a job as a draftsman for the Oregon State Highway Department. In interviews with Travel Salem and Coaster Mania, Roger recounted that in 1964, during a family car ride to Minnesota, they passed a number of themed amusement parks and said, quote, "There wasn't much to them." Similarly, there wasn't much to do back in Oregon at the time, and that's when an idea started to take shape. Back in Oregon, Roger purchased approximately 20 acres of forested hillside near Turner, Oregon, right off Interstate 5, for $4,000 and $500 down. He began developing what would eventually become Enchanted Forest we know today, though it was originally called Enchanted Hill as per concept art drawn by Roger himself. And this is where his story really separates itself from most theme park origin stories. There were no investors, there was no corporate backing, there was no team of Imagineers. It was Roger, his family, and the land. He, along with his wife Mavis, and by this point 3 children, began clearing the hillside, pouring concrete, sculpting figures, and carving out pathways. Much of the work was done by hand and mostly by Roger himself, often during evenings and weekends after work. Everyone thought Roger was crazy for such an ambitious idea, but eventually some of Roger's coworkers helped out because there are just some jobs that require more than one person. In addition to working at the Highway State Department, he also took on 2 side hustles as a watch repairman and a commercial artist to help pay for materials for the park. Needless to say, this was not a short timeline. It took about 7 years of consistently hard work before the park was ready to open. Now, one thing that's important to emphasize, and something that often gets lost when people first hear about Enchanted Forest, is just how much of it was physically built by Roger himself. We're talking about hand-sculpted and hand-painted figures, poured concrete and custom-built structures, hand-laid pavers, and themed environments. And it's because of that that the park has this very distinct feel. It's not polished in the same way as larger corporate parks, but that's actually part of its charm. You can see the craftsmanship. You can feel the individuality in each space. And that's something that's becoming increasingly rare. Finally, on Sunday, August 8th, 1971, Enchanted Forest officially opened to the public. And from the very beginning, it offered something different. Instead of focusing on rides as the primary experience, the park leaned into walk-through storytelling. Guests could move through fairy tale scenes, nursery rhymes, and themed environments that naturally encourage guests to slow down and explore. You're not rushing to the next ride, you're not checking wait times, you're walking through an actual forest, looking around and discovering new worlds around every winding path. And in a lot of ways, that aligns perfectly with what we try to do with Where in the Park, right? Helping people stop and notice details that might otherwise be overlooked. As I mentioned at the top of the show, we are proud partners with Enchanted Forest. Kevin and I have visited this park several times, but last year we got the honor of doing so when the park was not accessible to the public to take updated photos for our games. Walking the park, just the two of us, with the only sounds in the park being our footsteps, the wind through the thick trees, and the staff meticulously maintaining the park, there was truly a magical aura around us. And we know that you will feel that same presence when you visit too, especially when you get the full experience of all that the park has to offer. On that opening day in 1971, 75 people entered the park and felt that same magical presence. A local paper reported on it, and that next weekend, 1,000 people came. Word was spreading, so much so that by the end of the park's second season, Roger quit his job to run the park full time. Today, over 100,000 guests visit each season, which runs on the weekends between mid-March and the end of September, with daily operations during spring break, major holidays, and from mid-June until Labor Day. So let's actually step inside and take a look at what Roger and his family created, because this is where his vision really comes to life. And much like the parks we often talk about on this show, Enchanted Forest isn't just one continuous space. It's made up of distinct areas, each with its own tone, style, and types of experiences. Over the years, Roger and his family continued to expand the park gradually, adding new areas and attractions as time went on, rather than building everything all at once. So what you're walking through today is actually the result of decades of ongoing development, not just that initial 7-year build. So let's walk through this Enchanted Forest together. Again, be sure to check out the blog that accompanies this episode at whereinthepark.com/podcast to see the photos of what I'll be describing. As you enter the park gates, a sign gently guides you to start your adventure along the pathway on the left towards a castle. Cross over the moat and through the castle to begin your journey through Storybook Lane. There's more to this castle than meets the eye, though, as there are corridors to go through and even a dungeon downstairs. Be sure to look at the large framed mural titled The Land of Enchantment. This mural was painted by Roger Tofte and features the characters in poses similar to the ones you'll encounter on your journey through the forest. This land is filled with scenes and walkthrough experiences inspired by classic fairy tales and nursery rhymes, such as Hansel and Gretel, Little Red Riding Hood, Goldilocks and the Three Bears, and other familiar stories that most guests will recognize right away. Humpty Dumpty is one of the first characters you'll meet on your journey. You can't miss him. He is a 6-foot-tall egg sitting on top of a wall with a huge grin. But he's not the original egg that was built in 1968. In July 2014, 2 men jumped over the pathway railing and tried to climb the wall. In doing so, the wall came down, sending poor Humpty down with it. The damage was unable to be repaired. So, in about a month and a half's time, Roger had recreated it from scratch to become the egg you see today. On the wall below Humpty's feet now reads the words, "Humpty Dumpty sat on a wall. Humpty Dumpty had a great fall. All the king's horses and all the king's men couldn't put Humpty Dumpty together again, but Roger Tofte did." So this egg definitely has a lot to smile about. Here in Storybook Lane, what stands out isn't just the subject matter, it's how it's presented. These aren't just displays you look at from a distance. They're spaces that you move through and can experience up close. As you walk up the forested hillside along winding paver walkways, you'll go down the rabbit hole with Alice or venture through the Wonderland labyrinth, peer into the windows of houses from Hansel and Gretel, or the dwarf's cottage from Snow White, or even go to the dwarves' mine to see them at work. There's also a fun crooked house belonging to the crooked man with a crooked smile, of course. Here is where guests find themselves seemingly defying gravity with rooms at fun angles and perhaps a little bit of mysterious storytelling that things are not as always as they seem. Further down the path is Peter Pumpkin Eater, which was the first cement structure that Roger constructed in 1964. There's also 2 slides in this area. One is just past the Seven Dwarfs Mine and is in the shape of a huge 20-foot tall witch's head from the fairy tale. Guests enter the slide by walking into her mouth, seeing an animatronic witch with an apple and a cauldron brewing, and then sliding down to come out on the side of her hair that flows further up the hillside. This slide is a frequent photo spot for many visitors. The second slide is based on the old woman who lived in a shoe. Guests start near the arch of the shoe and climb their way to the top. There are then 2 slides side by side, so you can race down inside the shoe, through the toe, and down the hillside, not too far from the castle where you started. Fun fact, there is an archway between where you end at this slide and the castle. At the top of the archway is a carved crest that reads R. Tofte 1970. And given that the park opened in 1971, we're assuming that 1970 was when the castle was completed. And this is one of those moments where you can really see Roger's approach to storytelling. It's not just about scale, it's about interaction and shared experiences. Many of these early displays and experiences were among the first things Roger built on the property, long before the park officially opened. So in a way, Storybook Lane isn't just the beginning of the guest experience, it's also the beginning of the park itself. Just beyond the shoe slide is Tofteville Western Town, which was the second area to be constructed in 1973. This area built on that frontier-style setting and introduces more interactive elements and attractions. Here you'll find a number of business facades. Some have peek-ins where you can see what's happening at locations such as Pa Cruddy's Laundry, the local jail, Fell's Wargo Stagecoach Line, Magoon's Saloon, the general store, the local dentist, Dr. U.R. Hurton, and much more. There is also Ma and Pa's Barbecue Restaurant, Fort Fearless, a shooting gallery, gold panning, power boats, and the Wagon Wheel Opera House Museum and Gift Shop, the latter of which features a documentary of the park's creation with interviews from Roger and his family. It's a great behind-the-scenes look of the magical world you're in and the hard work that went into creating it. This area also features 2 large attractions, the Big Timber Log Ride and the Haunted House. The Big Timber Log Ride was opened in 1996 in partnership with E&F Miller Industries. Quick side note about E&F Miller, they also created, among many other family coasters, the Lucy's Krabby Cabbies and Great Pumpkin Coaster attractions at Carowinds, King's Dominion, California's Great America, and Kings Island. The Big Timber Log Ride is a log flume that takes you on a journey through an old logging mill. Not only do you float along among the treetops, but there's also a section that is part roller coaster, followed by a 40-foot drop at the end. There's a great covered observation area at the end of that drop where you can watch guests get absolutely soaked. It is quite entertaining. The other main attraction here is the Haunted House, which was opened in 1974 and is located on the outskirts of Tofteville, just beyond the livery stables. Get ready to traverse up and down 3 stories as you venture from room to room, experiencing spooks and special effects around every corner. Up the hill from the Haunted House is a fork in the road. To the right is the Big Timber Log Ride we were just talking about. Directly ahead is the Comedy Theater, which has been performing musical comedies since 1974 and features twists on classic fairy tales. They hold casting calls, so if you're in the area and are interested in participating in an upcoming performance, definitely check out their website, enchantedforest.com, and then go over to the employment section at the top and click on Theater Auditions to apply. This year's production is Pinocchio. The director of the theater is Susan Vaslev, who is also one of Roger's daughters. Susan has written, directed, and cast each production since the theater's creation. To the left of the Comedy Theater is the Kiddie Rides area of the park, a space for younger guests to experience attractions designed just for them. There's a carousel with a variety of animals to choose from: the Kiddie Frog Hopper, the Up and Away Ferris Wheel, Speedway Bumper Cars, Kiddie Bumper Boats, and the Tiny Toon Train. This train, by the way, is the cutest train you've ever seen. Built in 2007, it's brightly colored and each car bounces along the track around handmade sculptures from classic fairy tales as it plays music. It's adorable. This area is the highest part of the park and is a cul-de-sac, so we will now turn back around, walk past the Comedy Theater and the Big Timber Log Ride, and head to our next area, the Old European Village. The first attraction on the left is a huge mountain, home to the Ice Mountain Bobsled roller coaster. Built in 1983, the bobsled became the park's first ride, standing at 100 feet tall. It was originally more of an alpine slide, but would be redesigned 2 years later by Ascot Design, improving ride capacity and replacing the track with a still tubular track, like that of the Matterhorn at Disneyland. Guests sit in an enclosed bobsled train with 3 cars per train, spending about 2.5 minutes riding along 1,600 feet of track, getting incredibly close to the mountainside and zipping around the trees. We have personally been on this one, and it is quite the experience. Across the walkway from the Ice Mountain is the Challenge of Mondor, which opened in 2006. This indoor trackless dark ride with blasters on the ride vehicles was designed in collaboration with ETF Ride Systems and the Sally Corporation. Quick side note about them, ETF Ride Systems was founded in 1999 and specializes in trackless attractions around the world. US-based parkgoers familiar with the Lego Factory Adventure at Legoland, New York, or Ghostwood Estate at Kennywood are familiar with their work. Sally Corporation was founded in 1977 and specializes in attractions and robotics. Many parks feature their rides, like the Lost Kingdom Adventure at Legoland, California, Florida, and Malaysia, Boo Blasters on Boo Hill at Carowinds, King's Dominion, and Kings Island, as well as the animated figures and plants for E.T. Adventure at Universal Studios Florida and previously at Universal Hollywood. However, they did not work on any of the animatronics found at Enchanted Forest. Back over at Enchanted Forest Challenge of Mondor, each vehicle seats 4. And together, you'll encounter Mondor the Wizard, who sends you on a challenging quest to free the Drumlins. But you must first battle the creatures of the dark, who lurk around every corner and are under the evil king's control. This ride is awesome. Think Buzz Lightyear Astro Blasters, but the scenes are made by hand and the vehicles are trackless. We were thoroughly impressed by the level of detail and sheer determination that a family park would have this type of interactive ride available. We found in a PBS News segment that it took Roger and the team years to create this attraction, including sculpting the rock formations, hand-painting the murals, and creating the show scenes. To add to the fun, at the end is a leaderboard to check your ranking. Medals are awarded for those hitting the daily high score and for all-time high score winners. How cool is that? We've played and found we were nowhere near the high scores, so we will definitely try again when we go back to the park. As you exit the attraction and continue down the winding path, you'll enter an old European village with buildings on either side of the path that invite you to come in and explore. Each of these buildings was hand-sculpted by Roger himself. As you enter into town, one of the first things you'll notice is something that you might hear before you see. There are conversations happening above you. Village townspeople at the windows on both sides of the street, spreading the latest town gossip or bickering about running late. On the left side of the street, you'll find Merlin's Magic Shop. There, you can peer through a kaleidoscope or talk to a wizard in a cabinet, which, according to the sign above him, is Mondor. Next door is Long John's Lookout, where you can get a close-up view of the Ice Mountain bobsled roller coaster flying past you. On the other side of the street is Sir Newton's Gravity Factory, where you'll find a large rolling ball structure, or sometimes called a marble machine, displaying the effects of gravity and motion. Next door is Pinocchio's Playroom, which takes you up a set of stairs to a building that actually stretches from one side of the street to the other. Up there, you'll find museum displays of puppetry from around the world and some fun interactive elements for guests of all ages to enjoy. As you climb back down, now on the other side of the street from where you started, you'll find animatronics of Geppetto, Pinocchio, and the Blue Fairy. Back outside, you'll find Geppetto's shop, which is a large gift shop, as well as the Blackbird Bakery. The bakery isn't a bakery at all. In fact, it's a show. Inside this small room, you'll find 4 rows of benches in front of a large display window featuring a large pie with a fork in the middle. A large blackbird is perched on the fork, singing the famous "Sing a Song of Sixpence" nursery rhyme. At the end of the song, 4 and 20 blackbirds pop up out of the pie to tweet and sing along. For more personalized fun, be sure to check out the Best Little Face Painting Shop, where guests of all ages can select from a wide variety of designs to express themselves. The shop also features princess dresses, capes, and costumes. Further down the street is the Jolly Roger Inn, where you can grab a bite to eat and see a show. The sign above the door reads, "Fantasy Fountains. 7-minute water show starts every 8 minutes." As you enter through the door, you're met with a curtain to block out the light, and signs guiding you to either 1, go right to order food where you'll find pizza and snacks, or 2, go left to find seating for the free show. This water show was created in 1988 and was originally slated to be a stage show. During the construction process, it was decided that a water light show with dancing water, mesmerizing lighting effects, and original music would be a great use for the space. And we agree, it is a fantastic show. Roger's daughter Susan not only choreographed the show, but also composed and played the music. While the Jolly Roger Inn never became a stage for live performances, there is a venue just across the street at the Gathering Hall. Here you'll find the home of the band Possibly Irish, specializing in traditional Irish and Celtic songs and featuring original songs composed by Susan. The band has been together since 2015 and consists of the following members. Susan, of course, who plays the accordion and hammered dulcimer. Tim plays the guitar. Devin plays the mandolin, bass, and bowrun drum. Dylan plays the Irish whistle and small pipes. Cadence also plays the bowrun drum and accordion. And the newest member who joined last June, Elena, who plays the fiddle. Possibly Irish has released 5 albums and has a number of music videos and live performances that you can find over on their website, possiblyirish.com. Be sure to check them out, and if you are in Oregon, definitely check out their calendar page. Not only do they play multiple shows a week at Enchanted Forest, but they also tour around Oregon and along the West Coast. So we have seen them a few times at the park, and they are amazing. You will love them. All right, so I know we've covered a lot, so before we move on, let's pause for a quick recap of the timeline. Roger bought the land and started working on Enchanted Forest in 1964. The first sculpture was Peter Pumpkin Eater. The park opened 7 years later in 1971 with the completion of Storybook Lane. 1973 saw Tofteville. The Haunted House opened in 1974, and the Comedy Theater opened later that year. The Ice Mountain Bobsled roller coaster was built in 1983. The Old European Village and the Jolly Roger Water Light Show happened in 1988, with the second phase of the village in 1993 to include the animatronics. The Big Timber Log Ride was opened in 1996. The Challenge of Mondor came in 2006. And then up at the Kiddie Rides area, the 2007 season opened with the Speedway bumper cars and the Tiny Toon Train. In 2015, the band Possibly Irish was formed. And finally, in 2017, the Carousel opened. All right, so as we continue along our journey past the Gathering Hall, where Possibly Irish has concluded yet another high-energy performance, we find ourselves heading towards a large archway. Before passing under it, be sure to look up to find the cornerstone with the Enchanted Forest logo and the year 1986. This pathway continues either up the hill back towards Tofteville or down the hill towards a quaint village with houses providing covered seating area and eateries such as the Ice Cream Parlor, Gretel's Grill, and Mary's Coffee Cottage, the gift shop, and the park's main entrance. Now, I've mentioned the winding paths a number of times in this episode, and the reason for that is really important. That's because the paths in most areas around the park are made of brick pavers, many of which have been personalized. In 2020, the theme park industry as a whole was hit hard by the pandemic, but this time brought a series of devastating events for Enchanted Forest. Of course, they had to shut down completely at the beginning of COVID, and then as restrictions eased, they were allowed to slowly increase their occupancy of 250 park-wide, including staff, during a time when attendance would normally be at its peak for the season. And then, in September of 2020, Oregon was hit with, quote, the most destructive fire season on record, burning more than 1 million acres. Enchanted Forest wasn't too far from several large fires, including the Beachy Creek Fire, which combined with several others to become the Santiam Fire, taking nearly 4 months to completely contain. The park suffered severe smoke damage, and the staff raced to save what they could in case the fire got closer. The fire claimed the lives of 5 people, 2 of whom were family members of the Tofte family: Roger's 13-year-old great-grandson Wyatt and Wyatt's grandmother Peggy. Wyatt's mother was badly burned, but thankfully survived. A few months later, in February 2021, an ice storm rocked Oregon, causing major damage as trees blocked walkways and toppled over structures and attractions. This was not the first time ice storms have caused destruction, but it was especially hard after the challenges of the past year. Enchanted Forest, which had been debt-free before COVID, now needed serious financial help to restore the park and open successfully. A GoFundMe was set up, and over 7,500 people donated more than $466,000. Original art drawn by Roger and memorabilia were auctioned off, and sales increased in their online store. Over 400 people also participated in the first run of their Buy a Brick program, where you can buy a personalized brick to help give back to the park while leaving a legacy. You can still purchase a brick on their website, enchantedforest.com, then go over to Shopping across the top and click on Buy a Brick. These bricks are created and placed in batches, and you can track your batch at every step of the process. You can find our Where in the Park brick not too far from the Challenge of Mondor in the Old European Village between Merlin's Magic Shop and Sir Newton's Gravity Factory. When you find our brick, be sure to take a photo and tag us at Where in the Park. With all of the support from the community, Enchanted Forest was able to start the rebuild process and reopen in June 2021. It's a testament of the lasting impact that the park has had on the community for generations. Another key part of the story is that Enchanted Forest didn't transition into something else over time. It has remained a family-operated park. Since the beginning, the Tofte family has continued to run and maintain the park, preserving not just the physical space, but the original intent behind it. As of this recording, 4 generations of the family have worked at Enchanted Forest in some capacity. Roger, of course, and his wife Mavis. Roger's father-in-law and brother-in-law helped with construction projects. Roger's son Ken built the animatronics found throughout the park. Roger's daughters, Susan and Mary, are co-managers and overlap duties covering park operations. Additionally, Susan oversees park operations and live entertainment, and Mary oversees accounting and the food service areas. Susan's son, Derek, is the head of ride and attraction maintenance. Mary's son, Tim, works in accounting and animatronics, and his wife, Ashley, is a ride operator manager and handles all social media. Grandkids are starting to come of age and working in the park as well, learning the park from the ground up. And in an industry where properties are often sold, expanded, or rebranded, that kind of continuity is pretty significant. Keeping it in the family is one of the park's core values, and it shows. One of the most meaningful aspects of Roger's work is that it didn't end with the park's opening. It continues. Enchanted Forest opened for its 2026 season on Saturday, March 21st, continuing a tradition that has now lasted for 55 years as of this August. Families who visited as children are now bringing their own kids and even grandkids back to the park. And that kind of generational connection doesn't happen by accident. And that brings us to the present. As mentioned at the top of the show, on February 13th, 2026, Roger Tofte passed away at the age of 96. The community came together on Tuesday, May 12th for a celebration of life in his honor. This free event was held at the pavilion at the Oregon State Fairgrounds and brought together family, friends, and those whose lives were moved by both Roger and the park he created. Per the Salem Reporter about the evening, quote, "Never before seen footage from Enchanted Forest was shared, along with stories and memories from members of the Tofte family, and a look back through many photos and the moments that captured the spirit of Roger and the place he loved so much." Guests were also encouraged to bring their own photos to share on photo walls. During the writing of this episode, Susan posted on Possibly Irish's Facebook page that they wrapped up shooting a new video for their song, Roger's Castle. This song and video were shared at the Celebration of Life ceremonies for everyone to hear before they were officially released to the public. In response to my comment on that Facebook post, Susan shared, quote, "I wrote the song about my father and for our band after we came through COVID, family deaths in the Beachy Creek fire, and the damage of the ice storms that followed. The song is a lot about his perseverance. After my father passed away in February, it felt like the right time to finish the song remembering my father." I can't think of a more fitting way than to hear Susan's own words and the music and emotion from Possibly Irish, not only to honor him, but also to thank the community for their support over the years. So definitely let us know if you attended the event. Be sure to check out Enchanted Forest social pages as well for photos and videos from the evening. But just think, what a legacy Roger has created. A place that continues to create memories for generations of families. A space that invites exploration, and a reminder that something meaningful can begin with a single idea, and the willingness to follow through on it. Right up to his passing, Roger had plans to create new attractions and tell stories in new ways. In our research, we ran across an article in the Oregon Encyclopedia that has a great quote from Roger. Quote, "We want to offer our visitors something unique with lots of variety. We strive to be that hidden gem that people discover as their own special place." And in an industry that is plagued with corporate mergers, huge roller coasters, and million-dollar advertising, Roger Tofte's life and legacy reminds us of something beautifully simple. Build with heart, tell stories, and create places that matter to families. To Susan, Mary, Lori, and the entire Tofte and Enchanted Forest family, we extend our deepest condolences and our sincere gratitude. Thank you for sharing Roger's dream with the generations of guests and making his passion your legacy. And to our listeners, if you find yourself in Oregon this season, which runs from late March through September, be sure to visit Enchanted Forest. Walk the paths, notice the craftsmanship in the details, take your time, and pause for a moment to appreciate the man who believed that a forest could hold magic, because it truly does. Speaking of noticing the details, as you know, Where in the Park creates self-paced seek-and-find games to play at theme parks. Since November of 2022, our games for Enchanted Forest have been sold exclusively at the park, and that partnership is something we don't take lightly. We currently have 2 mini-game options, which are called quests, and there are several versions, Quest A and Quest B, and soon Quest C. Each game has 8 images that highlight the details in each area of the park. You can find these games on Enchanted Forest website, at the front ticket booth, and in the main gift shop at the front of the park. Because when you look at what Roger built, it aligns so closely with what we believe theme park experiences should be. It's about discovering new worlds. It's about slowing down. It's about noticing details. And it's about spending time with family and friends in new ways. And Enchanted Forest naturally encourages all of those things. Special shout out to Susan and Mary for your support in ensuring the accuracy of this episode. And to you, our fellow listeners, if you've enjoyed this episode, we'd love for you to share it with someone who has memories of Enchanted Forest or believes in supporting family-owned parks. If you'd like to share any photos or memories of your adventures at Enchanted Forest, you're invited to share them with our private Facebook group, Where in the Park Explorers. Until next time, keep exploring, keep noticing the details, and we'll see you somewhere in the park. Bye for now. Thanks for exploring with us today. If you're ready to take your park experience to the next level, check out Where in the Park games. They're self-paced, seek-and-find adventures designed for you to experience the park in a whole new way. Whether you're visiting for a birthday, a family gathering, date night, or even a solo trip, you'll be searching up high and down low for the details found in the park's theming. Get ready to discover a deeper appreciation for your favorite theme park with a Where in the Park game and take 10% off your next adventure by using code PODCAST10. Which park will you explore next? Until then, we'll see you somewhere in the park.